This is?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, I could talk Get Smart forever.
Yeah, you're kind of going a little too much.
I'm editorializing too much? I'm sorry, I will, nudge me if I'm doing that, if there's a way to do it. I'm sorry, I keep catching myself and then stopping,
Over
but...
the head with the soda candlestick.
Or you could beat me over the head with a candlestick.
Karen Herman in the living room with the candlestick.
Talking again about Get Smart. Get Smart, of course, in the spy tradition had, Max and 99 had some fabulous gadgets to work with. Did you have some favorites props that you got that would really be great for your acting, that would really give you fun stuff to do?
Do you know, I know that I had a ring that had poison. I had a compact that was I don't know, a lipstick gun. No, they were amusing, but they were really paper mache. I mean, it's not like the CIA, somebody at the CIA told me that they actually copied those things. They would watch those programs and they'd try to make those things work. But if they had seen them up close, they would have been discouraged, because they looked good on screen, but they were just like cheap toys, really.
And I wanted to talk about the fan reaction some more. What was the fan mail like that you would get at the time, particularly from women? Did they look up to 99?
I never saw my fan mail, because I was warned when I first started doing the series not to read it, because there would be a lot of unsettling mail from people who are maybe a little, not mentally, had some mental problems or something. And so I didn't. I had a fan service I think for the whole time. I get fan mail now, and because it comes directly to me, because with the internet there's no secrets anywhere where you live or anything. Yes, of course the comments are very sweet usually, but also there's now, of course, people want you to send them pictures so they sell them. It's a business for a lot of people.
Right. No, I was wondering if there was any messages about empowerment of women.
Occasionally, more when I meet women and say, they'll come up to me and say, you have no idea what a role model it was for me as a little girl to see you, being strong, bold, and, effective.
After the show's 4th season, it became one of the rare examples of a show that jumped networks. We went from NBC to CBS for that 5th and final year. Was that 5th year different in its production or its tone now that you were on a new network?
No, it was the same show. It's just that we made a little more money because we had a new contract to sign. Not very much more money, but a little bit more.
And after that year, it went off the air. Do you know why the show went off the air, and how did you find out that it was happening?
Yeah, it went off the air because it was time for it to go off the air. It had lost its momentum by that time. I think they thought by having the twins that would kind of give it another shot in the arm, but it had run its course. I think it was quite right that it went off the air. And whoever was head of programming, I can't remember his name right now, called me, and with great regret in his voice, and said, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but it was absolutely no surprise to me whatsoever. And it was time, it was time to go on, for all of us to go on to something else. After doing the same character year after year, there's not much elasticity in what you can do, so it's not really challenging. You're not scaring yourself to death. It's nice to be scared once in a while.
Well, I want to get to some of those non-Get Smart roles that could have been scary. Yeah. But as long as we're talking Get Smart, I just want to finish it up. You reunited with Don Adams for several TV movies, and then for a mid-90s series, again, a revival of Get Smart. So let's talk about the 1989 movie Get Smart Again. Was that a successful endeavor, and how much fun was that to do?
It was just bliss to do, because none of it, I hadn't seen Don for 17 years. We hadn't spoken, on the phone. You lived there, I lived here, our lives were totally different. So it was it was as though the seeds of goodwill had been sown in us, and they just all sprouted. That, and seeing all the people, Burt Nodell, I was the producer for a number of years, and seeing him again, and and Leonard, and and all of the characters, Bernie and Dick, and it was just a little love in. I don't know how successful the actual, movie was. It was a TV movie. I suppose it was, it did what it was supposed to do.
But you had opted out of a 1980 Get Smart movie called The Nude Bomb.
No, I was never asked to do that movie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
No,
let
that's
me ask about
okay.
that.
No, that's okay. Don, recently, just before he died, he said, they told me you turned it down. I said, no, nobody even told me it was being made. I have to just surmise that the writers felt that they wanted him with, younger girls, like really young girls. I mean, I wasn't that old, but I was not.
But they wanted him with a 20-something girl.
20-something, buxom little blondes or something. I never saw the movie. And I must say I was a little gratified that it didn't get good reviews. I can't hide that.
And in 1994, Fox revived Get Smart with Get Smart Again. No, I'm sorry, it was called Get Smart. And you again came back as 99, this time as a congresswoman, I believe.
Yes, 99, and he was the head of control.
He was
against,
the chief. Yes.
The chief, yes, against all expectations.
And what was it like, again, taking up the mantle of this character that many years later?
We knew the moment we walked on the set it was the wrong thing. It was the whole thing was taken out of its time, and they tried to make the humor more cutting edge and more innuendo, to say the least innuendo. I mean, sexier and a little nastier, and the agent that was my counterpart, her role was sassier in terms of the guy, who's playing the Max role.
I believe they were your twins, right? Or one of them was Zach.
Oh, that's right. He was supposed to be that.
Andy Dick played your son Zach, who was, I think, and was Elaine Hendricks the female role? Was
yes,
she
that's
the other
right.
twin?
Yeah. Oh, not
No,
the twin. No,
oh, she wasn't the twin. She was
that was a boyfriend girlfriend
boyfriend,
thing,
girlfriend,
or
okay.
was purported to be that way.
Right.
And I think it showed how hard it is to take something out of its own time. It has nothing to do with the talent of anyone involved in it. It's just that it just didn't work, and we knew.
What had attracted you to take that series?
I did it because Don did it. And Don said he did it because I did it. So, okay. We should have talked on the phone.
Well, moving away from Get Smart, your first feature film role, what was that? And was that, in terms of the time frame with Get Smart, was that before, during, after?
It was during Get Smart. It was, they had guaranteed me a certain number of weeks off from the show. That was when I didn't realize that I would be liking this experience, so that I didn't have to be in every in every episode. And so I did a movie called Fitzwilly. And it was a light comedy, and it was never, it was not a big box office.
But it was your first feature. What was it like moving into that world?
It was just like doing a television show, and I realized that when you're doing a television show, you think, oh, I want to be in movies and movies. But we were doing one camera, and it was totally the same experience. It's just that it took 3 weeks to do instead of 1 week, to do the thing. And that, life is full of little important disillusionments, that if you didn't get a chance to do movies, you would always think that would be magic. That doing television is okay, but that would be magic. But then thank goodness you get to do a movie, even though it isn't a very good one. And it's not magic, it's just like television. There's really no difference. And except maybe it's not as interesting because you're not working as fast. And the thing that is the most leaden about working on film is the waiting time. So that most of the time you're doing nothing. You're just sort of feeling like your IQ is sagging because the hours are going by and you're just doing nothing with your life. And then it's on the screen and people see it on television. They think, oh, wow, if I could only be doing that. but probably what they're doing is more interesting than actually filming. Am I the only one who says this? Is this like a secret that nobody's supposed to say? Or maybe it's just me. I keep looking for other actors to say this, and nobody ever does. Maybe because it sounds ungrateful, and I'm not ungrateful. I'm very grateful. But it's just true that most of the time you're not really doing anything very interesting.
What do you think is the legacy of Get Smart and why it has survived? I mean, more than survived, they're making, you know, that feature film right now. What do you think has made it last?
Of Get Smart?
Yeah.
First, let me add just one little coda to what I just said. I don't mean to say that the acting isn't interesting. That is a joy. It's just the long periods of, you know, hanging around. Now, the question was...
The legacy of Get Smart.
Why is it still? Because it was a perfect, it was the perfect wave, you know. It was the time, the talent, everything came together and made this little gem. And I think it really is a gem. I don't think that's just aggrandizing, you know, the project. When I occasionally see one, I am charmed by the whole package, all of those different elements that went to make up this funny little silly show that makes you laugh and has a heart. And I think it's an accident, almost an accident, a collision of opportunities that made it what it was. And I think for that reason that it will always be charming to audiences.
Did Get Smart make you feel typecast at all in terms of getting roles after the series ended?
Oh, there's no question. My agent, at the time I took Get Smart, I'd been cast in a movie called The Group, which was a pretty important movie. And then Get Smart came along, and my agent said, you have a choice. You can do the movie. It has Candice Bergen in it, in her playing a lesbian in her, you know, film debut. So you can do that movie and, you know, really be outshone by the publicity that's going to get. Or you can do a series that will guarantee that you will have a secure future. Not in movies, though. So in doing the series, you have to give up the aspiration of being a movie star. In those times, now things have changed somewhat, but in those times, there was no crossover movie star coming out of television, not one. And I made a decision, and I, to this day, know it was the right one.
But that limited going into movies, but even within television, did people always see you as 99? Were you always going to be a particular type of woman in casting people's minds?
Well, I think for a while people were afraid to cast me in anything dramatic, because they'd see me on the screen and think they were supposed to laugh. Yeah, there's no question that did happen. The first year after Get Smart, I didn't work at all, so no one offered me anything.
Well, let's talk about some of the shows that you also worked on during that time and then after. You started doing a lot of the variety shows. I believe your Laugh-In appearance, what you were filming it in the very first batch of Laugh-In, so you actually were in the first episode that ever aired, is that true?
I was in the first 5.
Okay.
Because we were on hiatus. And they asked me then my agent at William Morris, who was representing them, wanted me to switch, because that's when the switchover was made between networks for Get Smart, and I was free. And wanted me to give up Get 99 and be one of the regular cast, and I said no. But I loved doing it. It was fun.
What was the set there like? Was that a chaotic experience getting
Yes.
that all put together? Or?
Yeah, it was very. Well, George Slaughter. I mean, everything is just comes off of his personality, which is so rompy and high flying. And so, yes, I enjoyed it, and I, to this day, have such a warm feeling for all of the cast that I worked with there.
And you also did other variety shows, like the Smothers Brothers show during the summer of '68, I believe. So during the run of Get Smart. And then later you did the Marty Feldman Comedy Machine in '72 and the Dean Martin show in '74. What was it like doing these variety shows?
I loved it more than anything. Doing sketch comedy, I thought, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I did a whole lot of the variety shows. And just being silly and rehearsing for 3 days and then getting up in front of an audience, which we never had, of course, was it was just playing, and there's no waiting time. You're rehearsing full time because you're doing dancing and singing and everything, and so you get there and you just do the show. So the downside of film was not there because you were in motion all the time. You were doing what you do, and it was fun and it was free. It was freeing. Things could go wrong. It was an adorable experience.
And it was a chance to dance again, I believe.
Yeah, it was a chance to dance, such as it was. And I thought, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, never dreaming that variety shows would just one day all go off the air within a few months. And that was the end of that. The end of a whole chunk of business for dancers and for comedic actresses like myself. Just gone.
And it was also a chance to sing. I know you sang the Get Smart, those 2 singles they put out, Max in '99. They put out as merchandise for Get Smart. Would you also sing on the variety shows?
Yes, I sang on the variety shows, and I sang a bit better than I did on those. Oh my goodness, I thought they were buried, and over the years people keep sending them to me.
They're on
out
CD.
There. Yes, I know.
In 1977, you hosted a syndicated show called Special Edition. Can you tell me what that was about?
It was a magazine format show for primetime access for ABC. And we did, with a variety of quality, little magazine format segments. My favorite was going to Tahiti, was our only location, and doing a whole thing on sharks.
So this was almost a transition into journalism for you.
I had always wanted to do a talk show more than anything in the world. You know, I'm more than acting. So it was an opportunity to interview people, and I liked that a lot. And it was also an opportunity to do things that were novel. You know, even silly things like going on the best roller coasters in the world, that kind of, it was fun.
And before you had done that, I don't want to leave out the feature film you did in 1975, I believe, Smile.
Yes.
Where your character name was Brenda DiCarlo. Can you tell me about that experience? Who was Brenda, and what was, I know it was set in the pageant world?
That was the only film, I made 3 films. The other was a Disney film that I just as soon forget, and the other film I did, but Smile was the only film that I'm really proud to have been in.
And why is that?
Because Michael Ritchie, who did Downhill Racer and The Candidate and Prime Cut, at that time, Michael Ritchie, who then became quite a well-known Hollywood director, was at that time doing these independent films. And they were based on Americana, and this was based on a beauty pageant. And I played Brenda, who was stiff hair, and she was an ex-beauty pageant winner, and she was the head of the beauty pageant in Santa Rosa, which had been a real beauty pageant the year before that Michael Ritchie had been judge for. And he thought, oh, this is fabulous material. So we moved into that town, and they used local girls from the high school to be, you know, to mix in with the actors who played the beauty pageant contestants. And it was a beautiful experience because for 6 weeks I was up in Santa Rosa in the wine country, which that land is just so beautiful, and just the fragrance that comes off of that land at night is like, it's just such a maternal place. And I loved doing the role, and she was so mean and so bad. And Michael said, when she gets shot, I want every man in America to stand up and cheer. And I remember I started to cry because you have to believe in the character you're playing, and I understood her. I understood why she was being this way, you know. But it was a charming film, and I think that's a film that will really last. I don't know if you've seen that or not ever.
I have. What have people said to you about it? Have
Oh,
fans said?
they love the movie. The people who have seen it, not people haven't seen the movie that much. It has a cult following, you know.
Right.
I don't think it's on television much or anything. Maybe, but I don't.
Rarely. That's where I
think
saw
so.
it, but it was a while
Yeah.
ago. Let's talk. You were saying you always wanted to host a talk show, and then you got your chance in 1982. I remember this. You hosting the '80s Woman.
Yeah.
And that was on daytime, which I believe then became Lifetime, correct? It's the Hearst
That's
ABC
right. It was
cable network.
ABC Lifetime.
Right. Can you tell me about the series and what, you know, how you got approached to do it, or you decided to do it, and what the show was like?
Well, part of being an actor on television is doing all the peripheral things like game shows. So I did lots and lots of game shows. And a man who is now one of the dearest people in my life, Bob Stewart, was the producer of many of those game shows. And we got to know each other just over the years of working together so much. And he produced the '80s Woman. And he just called me and said, "Want to do this?" And I said, "Oh, this would be just a dream come true to interview people." So we did it for 2 years, and I got to experience that.
And now
It was all women's issues.
I was going to ask
Yeah,
that.
it was. I interviewed, like, I don't know, 200 some women, you know, on women's issues. We pretty much exhausted the topic.
Would you have considered yourself a feminist before the show, and
Oh,
did
absolutely.
you during?
Oh, yes. Oh, no, I was a big feminist, yes. I went to the big convention in 1976 in Dallas or Houston, wherever it was. It was in Houston.
For the Equal Rights Amendment?
This was just after the time of the Equal Rights Amendment, I think, or maybe it was at the time. Anyway, yeah, I raised money for the Equal Rights Amendment. I went to rallies. I got people to cheer. And, you know, it was an interesting time, and I was very fervent about those issues.
Do you think that that the '80s Woman was a successful show? Do you think you really reached out to women and touched them?
You know, once someone asked a famous, well, not a famous English author woman whose name I can't remember, who's not Tolstoy, but she's a good writer, how she felt about her place in the whole scheme of things, and she said, "You know, I feel that there's this lake, and all these little tributaries feed into the lake of literature, and like Tolstoy is a torrent, you know, a flood, and that she's one of the tributaries." And so in terms of the '80s Woman, it was one of the things at that time that got information out for, you know, a certain numbers of millions of people watched it over time. So it did its part, let me put it that way.
Do you remember particular issues that you were that show was among the first or most prominent to tackle that you really helped shed some light on?
I don't think that it was not. I think everything was out there at that time. The big issue, of course, was Roe v. Wade and the people who, well, pro-choice and, you know, and pro-life, and so we had to have both sides on the show. And
had to by network standards,
Yeah,
or
we
had
had
to
to.
by your own
No,
thoughts
we
about
had
it?
to, yeah.
Okay.
And no, would I have chose to? No, I wouldn't have, because it was so confrontational, and it was not a comfortable interview with the pro-life people, although they do certainly have a point. I mean, I'm not saying they don't. I happen to be pro-choice, but I think that was maybe the most difficult issue. But a lot of them were women who have done something. It was presenting women who had started businesses, and it was kind of a role model. You know, I think that's probably where we made our greatest contribution.
And during this time and then before, you also did a variety of television movies. I wanted to ask which ones stand out to you, and I have a couple specifics to mention as well. But when you did the TV movies, which ones were your favorite? No, see, I'll give you a specific.
Okay.
I'll give you a specific. I know that was a vague question. In
No, it was a good question. It's just that I'm trying to remember what the movies
Well,
were.
in 1979, you were in Sooner or Later. You played Lois Walters.
That was nice because I saw Seattle,
Okay.
so I liked that.
And
Next.
your co-stars, Denise Miller, who played your daughter, who had been on Fish, the TV series, and Rex Smith, the singer and performer.
Oh, Sooner or Later.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I thought this was the one about anorexia, which was...
That's where you saw Seattle, the anorexia one.
Anorexia was Seattle. What was the name of that one?
Well,
It was bigger or smaller or something.
I have a couple of movies down here, but I don't think it's any of them.
Sooner
that I
or
have.
Later was a charming movie. I loved the producers. I liked everybody in that movie. I enjoyed doing it. I liked my trailer. I enjoyed doing that.
Can you tell me what the movie was about and who you played?
And Sooner or Later,
Yes.
what it was about,
Yeah. Or who you played?
Who I
Lois
played?
Walters. Who was she?
I played the mother of the girl who fell in love, I think. I don't think this was a huge role. I think this was a kid movie.
But it was a kid movie, but it's beloved by people who grew up in that
Oh,
generation,
that's
which
so
is why I'm
nice.
particularly asking about it.
I liked the bathrobe I wore. I remember that.
Well, I'll give you a couple other titles. I don't know if you have specific memories of them. In 1978, A Guide for the Married Woman. And
Oh, yes.
Tell
Yes.
me about that.
Well, let's. What can I say? What can I say? It was a job. It was about women having affairs, and I guess that was sort of the selling point of it. And it was pleasant. It was pleasant.
In 1979, there was A Vacation in Hell.
It was. That was. We were in Hawaii for 5 weeks on
That doesn't sound like hell so
location,
far.
Up at 5 o'clock in the morning, climbing rocks and staggering through deserts, and it was not a good experience. No, I did not read that script before I did it. My agent accepted it for me because the figures were very nice.
In 1979, Before and After, and 1980, Children of Divorce.
That was very nice. That was
Children of Divorce.
Yeah. That was with Fritz Weaver, I think. I loved working with Fritz. It was great working with him. He's a fantastic actor, and there were some really nice scenes to play. I remember that as being, a pleasurable experience.
And just to finish up the TV movies, and then we'll come back after a break, I believe the anorexia movie you may have been talking about is the 1982 movie The Unforgivable Secret. Is that?
Did I do that? I don't remember that one.
Okay.
That wasn't the name of it, but there's one you're leaving out, which...
There is one I'm leaving out.
It's with Alan Alda, and it's not Ted and Bob and Carol and Alice, but it was something like switching. No, I did a thing called Switch with Barbara Eden, which I loved because I love Barbara Eden. And that was fun. These TV movies were more in my head based on whether I had a good time or not. Oh, it was the one you mentioned was with Larry Hagman.
Yes.
Oh, we had
Yes,
a great
it
time.
is.
Yes, Larry is just a fabulous guy. That was fun. The script was not written while we did it, so they just sort of made it up as they went along. I don't think that was a big success.
That was The Unforgivable Secret, that there was no script.
That must have been it. But we had a fine time making it. And the other one was with Alan Alda and Connie Stevens and Doug McClure, where we switched husbands. We switched husbands in this movie, and I can't think of the name of it. Ted Flicker directed it, and that was really worthwhile. The script and everything, that was good.
Well, we'll take a break and clarify that and come back and finish up.
Good.
Thank you.